Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo.
On this episode of the History of the Chorus podcast with Curtis and Josh, we continue our look at the band from Nyack, New Jersey, known as Coheed and Cambria. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at IsSurviveByPro for news and latest episode postings. And make sure to subscribe to the show. Leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on YouTube or whatever podcast service you're using. And if you'd like to see us do some live streams, leave us a comment or tweet us the keyword stream. Now, without further ado, let's start the show.
The devil is in Atlanta. Army surrounded.
Hell must know. There have been worse things that I've done. I hold out these hands to receive the sum. Purge these days. Will we accept the things we must? The world will now learn of change to come. Or, no world.
No world. Welcome back to the History of the Chorus podcast, sponsored by the Church of the Seventh Track, where each and every episode we take a look at the history of a band from the core genre. I'm Curtis. With me, as always, is my co-host, Josh. Josh, hello, what is up?
Oh my god, that sounds like one of those terrible AI voices.
Oh, man. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, not a lot. Still deep in our Coheed journey over here.
We're getting in deep. Getting in there really deep.
I'm thinking
That's it, boy. Get in there nice and deep, like.
thinking a nice keywork throat piece.
Oh, God.
Something like that.
No, I'm not thinking that.
That's how deep we are. We're thinking keywork brands at this point.
Why don't you just throw it on your forehead? It'd be like it'd be like a third eye. It'd be like, I'm entering the keyword. Yeah. Dramatic pause.
And
I didn't know if you were going to say something. Oh, buddy. Yeah, we're going to get to Coheed. Trust me. We're going to get to it. We spent 2 hours worth on the last episode. And that was just 3 albums, Josh. This one has 4 albums.
yeah,
Will we break our record?
I think there was more to talk about with the others. There are companions to 3 of the ones we're going to talk about today, but there is no companion yet for No World for Tomorrow.
Yeah.
No,
Which I remember reading
up to interpretation.
Yeah, I must say I read some stuff where and it makes sense. It's hard to end something. And I think that's really kind of weighing on him. It was like, how do I truly tie a bow on top of all this? At least in that chapter of the story. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's tough. So it's gotta be one of those where it's kind of like, I know I need to get it done, but I really don't want to get it done, because I don't want to make a mistake or.
Right. I
But
think eventually it'll come out. I mean, they're still
yeah. Well, at
active.
a certain point, you got to do it because I feel like the longer you wait, the more like possibility of like disappointing some people with the result or like the product that you put out there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not saying that it's gonna be. It's just I feel like if you wait on something like that, the more anticipation, the more hype gets built up in a fan's mind, and then you kind of get let down. But I don't know. I didn't even ask you. Are you prepared for a little? What did you listen to this week, Josh?
I don't really listen to anything. I mainly just
Anything? What about those 4 albums behind you?
well, those, yes. No, I mainly just caught up on podcasts this week, and I think I listened to an old Warriors album, like a few tracks off of that, but that's
Nice.
about it.
Okay, well, I'll give you one then, Josh. This is kind of a looking ahead to a future episode here. Yeah, exactly. Get your binoculars out. Looking out there. I want to throw this one out to you, Josh. See if you recognize this little album artwork here.
Oh yeah. I mean, it didn't help that I can like kind of see
Well, you can't.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was the bad part, man.
Abigail Williams. Is that
Oh,
the Legend EP?
Legend EP, the one where it
Okay,
started
okay.
it all, buddy. Yeah, this is a classic. This was this is the only one that I've really heard from them. I think I've heard some like individual songs here and there from them, like albums after that, because this was their very first one that they released. But this is a classic.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think I've only
show,
listened to
man.
the one after this. But
Shadow of a Thousand Suns, I believe is what it's called. Yeah, and from some of this like notes that I've been taking so far for that episode, this one or Legend, and then the next one or the first full length after this, um, Shadow of a Thousand Suns, those are the only two that are considered symphonic black metal because they actually have a synth player, Josh.
beautiful.
Right up your criteria. And they did the right thing. Once they got rid of the synth player, they decided to drop the symphonic and just go straight black metal. So, yeah.
I
Anyway,
love
that's
how
what.
my quote on the last After Hours was, "I won't hear of it." When we were
Yes,
talking
I
about,
I had to throw that one in there for you, Josh. I won't hear of it. I won't hear
uh,
of it, man.
I won't. I won't hear of it.
Oh man. Yep, it's a little taste of what we listened to this past week. A little reminder that the first three episodes of Coheed and Cambria here are all about the albums, the history. But don't worry if you're here for some story behind the albums, the Emery Wars. That's coming in part four. So make sure to stick around all the way through the series to hear that. Alrighty, Josh, let us dive back on in to this massive catalog of discography as we continue our look at the band known as Coheed and Cambria. Where we last left off, Josh, the lineup was Claudio Sanchez on vocals and guitar, Travis Stever on guitar, and Michael Todd on bass. Get out of my ear a little bit there, Claudio. A little too loud there, a little too loud. Couldn't hear myself think. With the return of Michael Todd on bass from his brief departure, a little rehab from heroin,
Oh
the band would begin to prepare for studio time to work on their next album.
man, okay.
But
I I don't
go
want
for
to
it.
advocate it,
Here we
but
go.
at the same time, I'm like, oh man, you're playing these albums, you're super strung out on heroin. I'm not saying that I would, he probably have himself a pretty good time, sounds like.
If he could remember it.
Yeah.
Wait, we played
That
last
sounds
night?
like a pretty, I'm just gonna say, it sounds like a pretty euphoric experience. You're high as hell on heroin and the music of Coheed and Cambria. Again, not advocating.
I'm clipping this for sure. I'm gonna clip this with some other stuff. It's gonna be like, "Hi, I'm Josh. I'm advocating for."
Oh my God.
I like heroin. You should like heroin. All right. Anyway, if you noticed there, Josh, there was just three members. That's because Josh Eppard, drummer, had left. The band was still without a drummer at this time, and they would turn to former Dillinger Escape Plan drummer Chris Penny. Okay,
Beautiful.
interesting, interesting. But due to contractual restraints from his former band, Penny would be unable to join the band in studio. Instead, Josh, I'm wondering if you know this. Actually, let me take it back. Do you know who ended up playing drums on Good Apollo, No World for Tomorrow?
Um, Dave Grohl.
Close. Close, buddy. Very close. They would turn to Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins, rest in peace,
Oh
to
man,
fill
really?
in on, yep, to
I
fill
didn't
in
know that.
on the recording. Yep. That is 2007's Good Paulo. I'm Burning Star 4, Volume 2, No World for Tomorrow from Columbia Records.
Dude,
Produced by.
that's really a
What?
testament to Taylor then, because I always thought the drums on this were really good. Foo
Good, man.
Fighters
Yeah.
feels like it has very like dumbed down drums.
Yeah. Well, and he's one of the things too that I like is he's kind of like, there's a throwback to another episode, but he's like Jesse Smith. He's a hard hitter, and that's
Yeah.
good, man. We want that. I want you to break your kid. I
You
want you
gotta
to
break the
damage it. You
kids.
gotta break the kid. You're already hitting it, dude. Go ahead and break it. You know?
Just break it.
Yeah, just I like he just whispered that. Just break it.
Just break it. Just do it.
Produced by Nick Raskulins, who's done work with Foo Fighters, Deftones, Evanescence, Alice in Chains, among many others. And it was also produced by the one and the great Rick Rubin, who has produced many genres, many upon many. Very wide variety there.
Oh, Rick Rube.
Rick Rube. Though Chris Penny on drums wasn't able to be with the band at the time, he would contribute some ideas on drums for the album. This album dated number 6 on the Billboard 200, selling 62,000 copies in its first week of sales, quickly eclipsing that number 3 months after its release by selling 350,000 by January of 2008. Wow. We're talking album sales, people. Whoa.
I bought one of those.
There you go. Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
When it debuted? Nice. Author Aluvadir of SputnikMusic.com wrote a review on the album stating, quote, being the final chapter of the Amory Wars, a high concept story being told throughout all of Coheed and Cambria's announced albums, you would expect Good Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4, Volume 2, No World for Tomorrow, to be a suitably epic and fitting conclusion to a story that has recently built itself upon its grand scope. Yet, even dating back to Second Stage Turbine Blade, Coheed have always been a band obsessed with pop songs amidst all the prog craziness. Their previous effort, From Fear Through the Eyes of Madness, decided to essentially separate these two halves of the band, making the first 2 real and last 4 songs crazy epics, while the middle of the album was full of poppy rock numbers. In No World for Tomorrow, Coheed finally managed to combine the two, this time with more guitar wanking and weird vocal stylings and production than ever. The most immediate impact the album has is the fact Coheed don't exclusively rely on lots of stupid bridges cast continuously after one another, a la the Willing Whale Quartet, to build some sort of epic climax anymore. Instead, they rely on more technical guitar playing combined with a wider range of singing by Claudio Sanchez to give you the hair-raising moments the album delivers. On the title track, the combination of the gang vocals in the chorus, Raise Your Hands High, combined with Claudio's wail of young brothers and sisters, and Is There No World for Tomorrow? If We Wait for Today, make for a moment that rivals that of the endings of Everything Evil and The Crowing, the emotional centerpieces of Coheed's first 2 albums. One thing Coheed has distinguished itself as since in Keeping Secrets is the fact they are a guitar-centric band. Claudio and Travis are the main forces musically behind the band, with bassist Mick Todd occasionally contributing a complex bass line or fill. The departure of Eppard from the band as a drummer gave hope to many that the simple drum beats of old would finally be replaced, as Chris Penny of Dillinger Escape Plan fame was supposedly joining the band. While he has joined them live, he is contractually unable to play on the album, and thus Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins filled in for him here. While there are moments of interesting drumming on the album, it's mostly old hat, with the drumming merely providing leeway for Claudio and Travis to go where they will. However, over the top they may be at times, particularly on songs like Grave Makers and Gunslingers and Feathers. The duo of guitarists have put out their best outing yet. bringing back the more intrinsic and intertwining guitar playing of Second Stage Turbine Blade and combining it with the 80s glam solos found on Fear Through the Eyes of Madness. They shred as much as they used to while pleasing those who were fans of the wanking solos they have recently demonstrated. You won't find the extremely extended solos like those of Welcome Home and The Final Cut, besides a flashback in On the Brink, being abandoned for shorter and slightly less noodly solos, more reminiscent of the Apollo 2 and 10-speed solos, which is a giant relief as they aren't quite interesting enough to make a 2 to 3 minute solo work. In small doses, however, they are a nice break from the core of the songs themselves. The author finishes the review by saying, quote, Good Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4, Volume 2, No World for Tomorrow is the album Coheed fans have been waiting for. Coheed add in some more macabre lyrics, add some heaviness, and then perfect a mix of everything they've ever done here. Conceptually, it fulfills its purpose marvelously. To a non-fan or someone who has never appreciated Claudio's vocals or songwriting, it may surprise you with its consistency. Perhaps it's a bit over the top still, and it still isn't a return to the roots that many fans want and refuse to accept otherwise. But No War for Tomorrow is Coheed doing what they do best, writing an excellent album where the songs combine for a bigger effect together than they do individually. We'll see where this ends up in a few months, but as of now, it's everything a fanboy could have wanted and likely enough for the casual listener to enjoy it wholeheartedly. Songs on this album include The Reaping, No World for Tomorrow, The Hound of Blood and Rank, Feathers, The Running Free, Mother Superior, Gravemakers and Gunslingers, Justice in Murder, and The Incomplete Saga, The Fall of House Atlantic, Radio Bye Bye, The Incomplete, The Road and the Damned, and the finale On the Brink. Question for you, Josh, because I think we get this on the review for the next album too, if I'm not mistaken. Why people be hating on Josh Eppard's drumming style? They're calling it simple. It ain't
I don't
simple.
know.
It
I
ain't
don't.
simple.
Yeah, it's not simple. It's like,
It fits. It works with what they're doing, you
right.
know? It's not over the top. I'm sorry, not everybody can be the drummer from Rush. May he rest in peace. Where he's got like surrounded by drums and he's using every last bit of it, you know.
I don't know. I
And if
feel like
you
it works. It isn't like the most complicated thing you've ever heard, but it's also not like, I don't know, something that you could just play on like a three-piece kit. Like it's
right. Well, if you watch him live too, he plays it strange. Like a lot of times he'll play the hi-hat with it's on his left side, but he'll play it with his left hand, and he has his ride right to his left up front. And it's really weird. I don't know.
hmm.
He's got a very interesting way of playing the drums, but yeah, I was very kind of surprised when I read that. And then, like I said, I think the next reviewer says it too on the Year of the Black Rainbow album. I'm like, what are you guys hating, man? It's not simple. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. A lot of
Yeah.
ghost notes, I will tell you that. A lot of ghost notes on that snare. He loves his ghost
Yeah.
notes. But anyway, enough about Eppard. Let's talk about the album as a whole, Josh. No World for Tomorrow. Is there a world for tomorrow, Josh, in your opinion?
Nope.
Nope.
Not if everything doesn't change.
Oh man.
That's the
Yeah.
warning. If everything doesn't change here, and in my opinion, that's like, Heaven Spence's control of everything,
Right.
then he's just gonna destroy everything.
Right.
And he can, because he has the power of the crowing and also the power of the rider to back him up.
Yeah. That's so okay. We were kind of talking about it slightly before the recording here, but I wanted to bring it up. So I'm listening to The Reaping and I'm thinking to myself, is that not the writer talking? Or do you think that's Claudio?
I feel like it's Claudio, but I guess it could be the writer. I don't know. I feel like
So here's
the writer makes his declaration in like the next to last track
okay.
on Good Apollo. And yeah, I don't know. I it feels weird to me that this would be the writer.
Yeah, I just one of the things that I wondered if it was is again, it's the deal of both albums are, Good Apollo, one's volume one, one's volume two. Obviously, we know what's going on in volume one. It's mainly focusing on the writer and such. But I look at the lyrics and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay. I mean, I get, well, I can see where the line of like, will we accept the things we must sounds like that could be Claudio talking. I don't know. It just overall it kind of gives me this like feel of like you're saying, like that kind of like final declaration type thing of all right, here it is. And I don't know if it's maybe maybe I could also see where yeah, like you said, he makes that declaration on the last song on volume one, but maybe this is kind of like a repeat on volume two to like catch the listener up to like, okay, remember this is what's happening, you know?
Well, I get why you say that. My thinking though is that he he doesn't tell Claudio like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this." He tells Claudio, "You're gonna do this because I'm gonna
Right.
make you do this."
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like it's Claudio because now it's like been put in his hands and now he has to be that guy, you know?
Yeah. There's
So
work to be
I don't know.
done,
That's why,
brothers and
yeah,
sisters.
that's why
Yeah.
I view it as him. And that's
Yeah.
why I also like view this person on the album cover as him also.
Okay.
The
Well, yeah. What do you think
writer,
about?
he might see himself differently, but the writer is older, I think we're supposed to believe.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Well, what do you think about the album as a whole, Josh?
I really like No World for Tomorrow. I remember when it came out, it's tough. There's been tons of albums that we've talked about where how is how's December Underground supposed to measure up to um
Sing the Sorrow,
yeah, Sing the Sorrow.
or
Um
even Crash Love to December Underground.
right. How is the Black Parade supposed to hold up to Three Cheers?
Right.
Like,
How is Lost in Sound of Separation supposed to hold up to define the Grand Line?
oh,
Badooch.
define the Grand Railroad,
Define the Grand Railroad, the Grand Funk Railroad. There you go.
define the Grand Departure.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Uh,
it's tough, man. And
um,
especially when it's kind of, I mean, it's you're closing the story, it's the final chapter of the story. And then on top of that, it's kind of that second part of like a double album kind of. Again, I go with the title, but
not everybody can do what Every Time I Die did. Rest in peace.
rest in peace. Just want to shout outs beyond the grave tonight, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I one of the things I really like about this album is that there is no source material right now.
right.
So it just kind of gives you some room to play with your idea of the concept of this album, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just even right from the beginning, we both had different views of how, like what's going on here. So, I
Tell
really
us,
like
Claudio.
I really like the album artwork. I think that's really cool. One of the better visuals for their albums. Um,
What does the album artwork tell you? What is happening?
it tells me just kind of what we were talking about. It looks like he's headed towards, I don't know what this is, like some city or if this is like a main base or something. It could be, uh, maybe House Atlantic. I don't know, but
What's up with the ground though? Is that like what's where it's cracking? Is that like space underneath?
I think so.
That's what I keep thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Oh
think
man, it's the never-ending story. It's all going to hell.
he's probably more powerful than he was
Realize, yeah.
at least at the point of his fight with the Rider.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because a lot of his powers aren't like earth-shattering stuff, but
Ugh.
it's pretty powerful, but it's not like this. This
Right.
is like Rider level, so but yeah, I think that's why I think that Coheed's probably or not Coheed, Claudio is probably given that power because he's supposed to be the agent of the Rider. So
Right. Gotcha.
um
Uh,
I was gonna say the first half of this album is better for me than the back half.
okay. So you're not
One
big on
through
are you
yeah,
not
the
big on
one
the
through
saga?
five or whatever, yeah, at the
Yeah.
end, it's
What?
not as good as its
What?
predecessors.
Well,
So it,
no.
it has its moments. There's a lot of stuff I like in this album. Like this, I still listen to this album fairly regularly, but it's yeah, on the back half, there are a few that kind of lose me.
Okay.
Um, but I don't know. Coheed does this thing where every time I feel like they're losing me a little bit, they draw me back in. Um, because this
All right, Al
album,
Pacino.
this album ends with a version of like one of our favorite little Coheed reprising riffs.
Yeah,
I'm
what
pretty
was it? I
sure. Let me go back.
was about to say there's quite a few like callbacks lyrically,
Yes. Yeah, I remember
to
I mentioned that last episode, how there would be like a few in here from Good Apollo or Silent Earth.
yeah.
Yeah, and On the Brink, the guitar solo that's playing at the end is almost the same. It might even be the same. It's just played a little bit, it's a little off, but it is the guitar solo from the end of Final Cut.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
And then it ends with that really cool sounds like an organ
Mm.
playing
Yeah.
like what was the was it just synth, I think, before? Yeah, it was because it was the da
Yeah.
da 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 da.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool little stuff like that, like keeps you in it, and it's like, oh, okay, like this
It's
is
still
still,
connected.
yeah,
It's coming.
and that
Just
helps.
wait.
That helps when you don't have, the source material for it.
Yeah.
And then I also felt like, Year of the Black Rainbow being a great album, like that keeps that, it stays on par. We don't have it's going to be hard to not have a little bit of a drop off of Good Apollo 4. Um, but then, if you have that album like Year of the Black Rainbow that's on the same level and can keep it propped up, like it's not as big of a hit to take. Two albums that are down in quality after an amazing one starts to feel like, okay, maybe they've
We're
lost their
losing it.
touch. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the pinnacle of their ability. But no, they continue pretty consistently for the next few albums. I had listened to Ascension, but I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed the music on Descension as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the music, I mean, stays super consistent throughout.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. One thing is certain, the music stays consistent. Yeah, in
Damn
talking
you, New Awaken!
in talking of lyrical callbacks from this album, I don't know how I was kicking myself after the last episode ended. How in the world did we not make mention of the House of a Thousand Corpses reference, the Run Rabbit Run?
Oh, I guess I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was always, of those movies, I was always more of a Devil's Rejects.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying.
I probably couldn't tell you a single line from House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah, there's that and Mother Superior. Of course, New World for Tomorrow's got the Bye Bye World.
Mother Superior.
There's at the end of No World Tomorrow, there's two lines. What did I do to deserve all of this? And then what did I do to deserve all of you? One's from In Keeping Secret, one's from Volume One. And then Incomplete goes with the rabbit on the run again. And then I don't know how much of a callback is, but I thought I was like, maybe where it says welcome home. I was like, oh, welcome home.
Yep. No, I think
I was
everything
Leonardo
with
DiCaprio.
them
Hey, hey, hey,
is,
hey.
yeah, no, I think everything with them is a silent nod to those different, previous tracks or lines.
Yeah, for sure. All righty. Final thoughts there, Josh, on No World for Tomorrow? You ready to close the
Um,
chapter? Sort of?
yeah, I guess not really, because this is my favorite part of
Yeah.
this, you know.
I was gonna say, you talked about it before. It's in terms of the story that goes with the music, it's hard for you to kind of look forward to these, the future albums here, especially the more recent ones, because yes, it's still in the same world, but it's not the Claudio and the Jessies and, like you liked it. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to
dude,
see.
I don't care about the massive corporation that's taken over and
What?
you know what I care about? I care about the point in the story with the Vipers and the Bishop and the Sons
Oh
of
boy, here we
Flagship,
go.
Curtis. That's the part of the story I care
And the
about.
Archers and
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's 2007's Good Apollo, I'm Burning, Star 4, Volume 2, No World for Tomorrow.
Don't go.
Don't leave. Once touring commenced for the band in support of their new album, Chris Penny on drums would finally fill the vacant spot left by previous drummer Josh Eppard. The band would then see time on the 2007 Vans Warped Tour, while also joining Linkin Park, Clutch, and The Fall of Troy on a tour across America, later headlining the Bamboozle 2008 Music Festival, and following that up with a four-night concert event in October and November of 2008 called Neverender, which featured the band playing a different album in its entirety each night, one in New York City, Chicago, LA, and London. Josh, what would you give to have a ticket to each of those four shows?
Bro. I never
Don't
get to
make me
go.
say
I
it.
never get to see a band when they're like, we're playing this album in its entirety. Like, of all the bands I've seen, man, there's got to be
What's
somebody. There's got to be somebody that I saw that played an album in its entirety. But I feel like most of the ones where I should have been at, like, there's something happened. Like that one time I broke my toe, I was supposed to see Impending Doom, and they were doing Serpent Servant in its entirety.
ah?
Yeah. And then
You could have gone on crutches.
that was also All Shall Perish, so I missed All Shall Perish. Yeah,
Ah.
can't see them again. And then the other one was Motion City Soundtrack because like every year or two they do that Commit This to Memory tour.
Jeez,
And
you're
that was
committed to the memory.
probably that was probably like 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
But
Do you have a dream album from any band that you would like to hear live like
God,
that?
I
Yeah,
would
I know
love to
that's
hear
like a heavy question, but
I would like to hear Silent Earth or Good Apollo. Um, it would be even better if they were back to back. Like,
Yeah.
6-hour concert. They play the whole
Jeez, little
thing
priest.
back to back.
Uh, it's just as good as shooting up
Maybe
heroin,
right. I would like to
which we're not
see
advocating.
Devil Wears Prada play the zombie EPs back to back.
Okay.
Even just a short show where they played the first one, that'd be pretty
Just the
sick.
first one. Yeah. Like an opener.
Yeah. Oh God, Norma Jean Redeemer. But we'd have to go back in time. I don't want to hear those assholes. I don't want to hear those new guys play that shit.
Oh man. Yeah, and
Uh,
that's my
I
problem
can sit here and do
is
this all day. Yeah.
yeah, I'm more of like running into the problem of seeing guys and like like Norma Jean. Corey's the only one that's left, man. I don't know you people. You people weren't around for all these good albums.
Right.
But yeah.
I told you, yeah, and I've told you how I feel about that. Like, I
I
don't like
know.
that with Maylene. I don't like those guys up out there playing like they wrote that shit.
Yeah.
Like, you guys weren't
No.
here.
You guys can stand in the back. Don't act like you wrote that thing.
Yeah.
Meow, meow,
Only
meow. Get
Dallas
that
up
out of my
there.
face. Oh man. All right. Yeah, they're doing the four night dealio. The band would later release that on CD/DVD, entitling it Neverender Children of the Fence Edition. During this time, the band would also see their brand grow as several songs would be featured on the video game Rock Band. They include Welcome Home, 10 Speed of God's Blood and Burial, The Running Free, and A Favor House Atlantic, later being joined by future songs Here We Are Juggernaut and The Broken. While writing new material for the next album, the band would play on tour with such bands as Slippity Knot, Trivium, and Brand New, while also playing such festivals as Austin City Limits Music Festival, Wacken Open Air, Sonosphere Festival, and Lollapalooza Fest. Finally, finished writing new material, the band would book time in the studio to record their next album, which would serve as a prequel to the story told so far. That's 2010's point on it. Point, Josh. Point towards it. The Year of the Black Rainbow. Bing, 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 from Columbia Records. Produced by Atticus Ross, who has done work with Nine Inch Nails and Korn, and Joe Barresi, who has done work with Tool, Chevelle, Queens of the Stone Age, Parkway Drive, Soundgarden, Weezer, Slip It and Knots, and so many more. This is you're on mute.
I said that was all over the place.
Yeah, no, right? Not as bad as Rick Rubin, but
Yeah.
it's getting there. This is the only album to feature Chris Penny on drums, and it would be the last album for founding member Michael Todd on bass. I don't know, was that sarcastic? Peaking at number 5 on the Billboard 200 and number 2 on the Billboard Top Rock Albums chart, selling 51,000 copies in its first week of sales. Author Took from SputnikMusic.com wrote a review on the band's prequel album saying, quote, Year of the Black Rainbow gets in line as the first part of the four-piece saga and describes the origins of both characters the band is named after, revealing a lot of background information and answering pending questions, serving as the historical starting point of a concept a complete band is based on. Coheed and Cambria visibly haven't intended it to be an extraordinary output sound-wise, one that's back to basics, a homage to their roots after the inconsistent ending of the Amory Wars that was No World for Tomorrow. It's considerably more another spin to the sound of a band established during 4 takes on combining progressive rock music with punk and pop sensibilities. A spin that sets Coheed and Cambria's wheels on full speed again, frictionless, right away from the start. A calm fade-in, dark, bleak, drawn with piano twinkle. Feedback here and there, crawling until distorted guitars hit the surface with opposing but somehow intertwining riffs that carry the song under the rhythmical and oral support to the emotionally peaking chorus. Now a soaring guitar lead, crashing cymbals, and wholeheartedly singing that relies on a simple and highly melodic sequence exhausted by its drenched emotions. The lead single, The Broken, with its own little prequel, One, marks the best and most stimulating opening since In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3, combining the band's ambitions. Nice.
I didn't realize that was unmuted. It's like, ah.
Combining the band's ambitions of a mood-drenched musical backbone and hook-laden song structures. I'm just waiting for him to be like, guys, this guy sucks, bro. He's just like, stop talking about these reviews, you idiot. Oh, guys, is that on mute? Anyway, carrying on here. While the record altogether became mostly a darker, menacing affair, Year of the Black Rainbow is far away from a coherent, atmospherical themed album. Brooding synths and psychotic breaks oppose fleet-footed chord progressions and catchy refrains, whereas Claudio's seraphic singing gets threatened by schizophrenic screams. Yeah, well, sometimes, and attacking guitar riffs, having a lot more to offer than the dynamic antagonism that passes through the record as a whole. Coheed overcome experiments with electronic drums and glitches on the gloomy Far, a little-known drum festival with the heavily propelling Guns of Summer and a completely differing vocal intonation that excels the spacey ballad Pearl of the Stars. What definitely enriches the sonic range that can be found on the album is, on the other hand, a brick which needs to be integrated contextually. While the electronical gimmicks find their way very smoothly into the trademarked Coheed and Cambria sound, Pearl of the Stars is a song that probably would better fit on the next Prize Fighter Inferno record. It was even written for it. Little known fact for you, Josh. With its dominating acoustic guitar strummed by a partly droning Claudio Sanchez. Although the song will find its way in your ears very quickly, like almost every other song on here, it feels oddly out of place in between the mid-paced pop rock opera Made Out of Nothing, All That I Am, and the record's most quintessential track sound-wise, In the Flame of Air, with a handful of other minor discrepancies like the flow-killing staccato lead guitar on the otherwise irresistible catchy chorus of World of Lines. Coheed and Cambria managed to release a strong fifth record whose new elements and the steadily improving plus evolving singing of Claudio Sanchez promise a still progressing band with no signs of rust. They are pushing boundaries because they don't have to, feeling very comfortable in the little niche they've built for themselves over the years now. And when they keep drawing on seemingly unlimited resources, the future looks bright for the band that still has yet to disappoint. Songs on this album include One, The Broken, Guns of Summer, Here We Are, Juggernaut, Far, The Shattered Symphony, World of Lines, Made Out of Nothing, All That I Am, Pearl of the Stars, In the Flame of Air, When Skeletons Live, and the finale, The Black Rainbow, with some bonus tracks, Chamberlain, The Lost Shepherd, and Hush. What are your thoughts, Josh, on the prequel, 2010's Year of the Black Rainbow?
Initially, I was a little worried.
Yeah. Again, you go right back to how do you follow up? You
Right.
know, and I think in this case, it's how, even though it's still a part of the story and it's going backwards in time, still, how do you follow that up from No World to
Right.
conclusion, you know?
Yeah. And I remember hearing that it was a prequel. So I was like, okay, well, maybe, if we're going back to the start here. It is an interesting album. I do like it. This was one that was in my car for a long time.
So long that it got stuck in a CD changer.
Um, it has source material, and like that's how we know that it's about the creation of Coheed and Cambria and how they're changed from being robots into more of like a cyborg kind of thing because
Oh, they're gonna say a real boy.
they're part human, so
Right.
and then yeah, when you look at this album, that story kind of paired up with how things start in Second Stage Turbine, it's pretty dark, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I don't remember exactly how this album ends, but we know Second Stage begins with them living somewhere totally different. They have no memory of who they were or what they were. They just Coheed every night wakes up from dreams where he and his whole family are being killed. So, yeah, but without all of the source material, like, how do you feel about this album as a whole?
I enjoy it. Let me just say as a whole, the four albums on this episode, I enjoy. Not it starts to kind of lose me a little bit on Dissension. I really did enjoy Ascension, but with Year of the Black Rainbow, knowing that again, I don't know the story. I know at least a sort of foundation of this story that Year of the Black Rainbow's tying with. But knowing that it's a prequel and it's kind of supposed to be, like you're saying, kind of the creation of, such and such or whatever, the way that they did like the music and the reviewer said it's kind of like they kind of went back to like a basics type thing. And I like that because it it makes me feel like this album could be done. Yeah, I don't know if I want to say it that way. There's just something about like some of the sounds that they make. I don't even know if I want to say that. What do I want to say?
Are you talking about vocally or just some of like
The music overall. I mean, at times, like he, God, how do I want to say this? It feels like a beginning because even like what the reviewer was saying on coming in on one, those ominous sounds. It's like this feels like kind of a creation beginning type thing.
it
I don't
makes
know. It's
me
just good.
Did you ever read like the series for Chronicles of Narnia?
If I did, it was a long time ago, man.
Okay, and I can even relate it to like the first Fantasia. Um there's like moments in that are supposed to be like kind of like creation type situation,
Yeah,
and it pairs up like some of the music in Fantasia is perfect for doing that, and it has this
right.
feel. In Chronicles of Narnia, the very first book is called The Magician's Nephew, and the old man from The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, he's like young in that, and he witnesses like the creation of Narnia, and like a lot of this stuff that's like described. I'm like, man, if you put that, like, the opening track for this, if you put one over the movie version of that, it would be so intense.
Yeah. And
Um,
I feel like even like looking when I look at the artwork too, there's just something too where it's just like, yeah, it's like this fits with like what I'm feeling, and I'm not able to like get all the feeling out there in words, but you get what I'm kind of saying
I
though.
do understand what you're saying, and it is a
Okay.
hard thing to describe.
Yeah. But
But
I
I feel
like
like
it.
they captured it very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah, for
sure.
sure. I mean, okay, so like I don't want to say like raw, but it I always think of when on Here We Are Juggernaut. I gotta think of the line here real quick. Oh geez, it's right before the chorus, and he says it in both verses, but he screams it in one of them, I think. but just like kind of like that scream is just kind of like it feels like back to a beginning. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just can't
Oh,
describe it.
it's no, this is not your playground, it's my heart,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
at the second time he's like really like
Really
yeah.
screaming it, man. Yeah. And I think there's some other times too where he does some screams on this. They're like just kind of gnarly like that. I don't know, man. Like I said, I have this feeling on this album, but I just can't really describe it all the way. Can't put pen to paper to it. But like I said, I like it. That feeling, I love it.
You said it does feel like it
It
feels
feels
like
good.
do you feel like they because story
I feel like I
wise
need to be on a
from what
couch.
you're feeling, like you feel like this feels like the beginning, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then musically, do you feel like they managed to capture some of their sounds from like a second stage turbine era? Like what would
Yeah,
have
but
been the
more
predecessor to that?
modern for that moment,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because like second stage turbine, yes, there's some like heavy parts, but it feels like a beginning. It feels kind of light and even though the lyrics and we talked about in the last episode too, where it's like they combine the happy music with the dark lyrics, the yin and yang type thing, even though it feels that way and there are the dark lyrics on um or dark subject matter on second stage turbine, it still feels kind of light to me. Um yeah.
Well, I'll put this to you also. In this album, it feels like they're created and by these people who are on like a higher level, they're at least like I feel like a little bit further up in society. Like their place is a little bit higher. They're scientists. And in second stage turbine, they've been dumped off, like they've been dropped off in Jersey City, which is not a great place. And yeah, I don't know. So that goes with what you were saying, it has that more modern sound to it, which would make sense for the story because this is not the world that they're accustomed to in
Custom
second
too, yeah.
stage. This
Yeah,
is this is a different thing. This would be a more polished and refined telling of this.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a
Uh
good one. And there's a lot of like little things that I think, there's a couple cool little riffs that I feel like at least remind you of some stuff that's gonna be coming. In the
drum
story, like,
wise,
in the story, not
right.
chronologically.
Right. No, 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 no. Drum wise, how did Chris do?
I like it. It
You
goes
just like, okay.
with it consistently fits what everybody else is bringing to the table.
Yeah. I think, and I feel like his drumming style kind of contributed to the feeling that I'm having that I've been trying to describe. There's something about it too with that kind of Dillinger vibe that he's bringing over too. It's kind of like a little kind of chaotic, you
Yeah.
know? So,
And
but
then this one, if I remember right,
will he be right or will he be wrong?
okay, no, I couldn't remember how um Black Rainbow ends, but it ends with a lot of the same kind of weird tones and stuff that it begins
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And there's
Any
that.
other? Oh, good. No, go ahead.
What do you think about that laughing like at the end of the
Yeah,
track?
I meant to ask you about that. What's because I was kind of hoping you might know. It's like, what the hell? Is this just like a random thing? Maybe that they were trying to do or whatever, but
Yeah, I don't
yeah, I
know.
don't know.
Creepy.
It's creepy. Yeah, I don't know, man. Evil scientist? I'm dumping him off in Jersey City. I don't know. I don't know, man. Do you have any final thoughts, Josh, on 2010's Year of the Black Rainbow?
Um, let me say
Whoop,
that if you go
the finger's
from
up.
the track The Black Rainbow to the beginning of Second Stage Turbine
Whoa,
Blade,
whoa.
it's pretty creepy because it
Okay.
goes from all those like weird kind of ominous tones and then goes right into the um their main theme played on.
Second Stage Turbine.
Yeah, it's almost like
It's almost like they planned it.
I don't know, it's like a old record player version of that, or like a
Hmm.
music box, like something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm. I'll have to check that out. There.
What if, Curtis,
Oh
at
boy,
the
here
end
we
of
go.
the album, when he dies, when Black
Aegon the
Parade
Fourth.
actually starts, that's the same guy dying?
It's the same guy. So you're saying they're in the two worlds are
I'm
connected?
still holding,
Coheed
still holding
and
on.
My Chemical
No, no,
Romance
no,
are together?
no,
Is that what you're
no,
saying?
no.
Okay. Oh, I get what you're saying. You're talking about from Three Cheers to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's a good theory. I like it, and Eric liked it too. So it's that's three eyes. So we're good. We're good to go. Moving forward. The release of their newest album saw the Amory War story come to a full end. As the frontman Sanchez would discuss the future, stating, quote, I've thought of telling stories of the future and stories of the past, maybe getting involved more in the stories of Sirius Armory, the fellow who figured out the value of the key work. He said, quote, or even stories that kind of parallel the one that we're telling. It's kind of up in the air. I've started writing music for the next record, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe in doing that, it's going to tell me which one to do. Oh, it told him. It told him all right, that's for sure. But before the work would continue, founding member Michael Todd would be arrested on charges of attempted robbery and unlawful possession of narcotics. I'm pretty sure it's probably heroin. After reportedly robbing a Walgreens in Attleboro,
This music just pairs
Massachusetts.
so well with heroin.
Did it? What is it? What was it?
What?
The music.
No, I'm talking about Coheed's music.
Yeah. Wait, going with what though?
Goes good with heroin.
Oh, heroin. Oh, I
That's
didn't
what
hear
you're
that
saying,
part.
and I'm pretty sure it was heroin. And I'm like, man, this
Oh.
music just goes so good with that.
He's not advocating, or maybe
They
it
just
is. I
can't
don't know.
stay away from it.
I just can't stay away from it. Todd would plead guilty to the charges, being sentenced to 1 year of house arrest and 3 years of probation. This
That's
coupled
pretty
with
good.
Todd's, yeah, this coupled with Todd's past addiction led the band to mutually part ways with their founding bassist, eventually replacing him with AM to AM bassist Zach Cooper. But the member changes would not stop there, as new drummer Chris Penny would mutually depart from the band, citing creative differences, leading the group to recruit former drummer Josh Eppard to rejoin the band.
The
Now the
gang
band,
recycles their trash.
there you go. Now the band was ready to start a new chapter in their history as they would enter the studio to record the first of what would become a double album, 2012's The Afterman Ascension, from Hundred Handed and Everything Evil Records. Exactly. Get them
Dude,
out of my
God,
mind.
the concept paired with these album covers is just so brutal. Like, God, what did they do to our boy?
Produced by Michael Birnbaum and Chris Bittner. They're going back to the boys that brought us the first three albums. This is the first album for Zach Cooper on bass, and it peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Author Sewing from SputnikMusic.com wrote a review of the album stating, quote, "For Coheed and Cambria disciples, the past 5 years or so have elicited it." That's all I could think of was somebody in like hoods. Just, oh. The past 5 years or so have elicited a lukewarm, almost befuddled response. Their two albums, No World for Tomorrow and Year of the Black Rainbow, dabbled in the retro and electronic territories respectfully and garnered a little more than an indifferent shrug from those who worshiped their opening trifecta like it was the holy grail of progressive rock. There was good reason for all the dissension amongst fans, as signs seemed to point towards Coheed and Cambria losing a step, risking that slow, painful slide into oblivion that we've witnessed from other great artists far too often. The 8-minute lead single Key Entity Extinction, Domino, The Destitute, was just the apology that we needed to put our unquestioning trust back in the hands of Claudio Sanchez and co. Its heavy rock atmosphere and fluid progression surging like the unbridled optimism that the song managed to evoke. The question heading into the Afterman Ascension was rather clear. Have Coheed and Cambria risen above their recent challenges to produce yet another masterpiece, or is Domino just another mirage, a swindle to the tune of Year of the Black Rainbow's Here We Are Juggernaut? The answer doesn't come in black and white terms, unfortunately. But Coheed's highly anticipated sixth album is definitely better than anything they've done in the past 5 years. Afterman Ascension is a rather brief endeavor comprising itself of 9 tracks, totaling just under 40 minutes. The first of 2 Afterman releases set to drop between now and February of 2013. The album's brevity serves to its advantage, placing the majority of its emphasis on the Key Entity Extraction tracks, while ornamenting those 4 standouts with a handful of songs that range anywhere from average to superb. The best moments come early in the form of the eerie, futuristic intro of The Hollow, the previously discussed Domino the Destitute, and the complexly interweaving strings and electric guitars of the lush title track. The album may not maintain its impressive start with total uniformity, but the good news is that while it occasionally loses steam, it never actually falters. There are weaker songs, such as the tired-sounding Goodnight, Fair Lady, but most of the time, Ascension is comfortably settled in the kind of mid-tempo groove that made the second stage Turbine Blade an instant classic. No, the songs aren't quite as good or as fresh-sounding as they were in 2002, but there's also no denying how rejuvenated the band sounds during the chorus to the Key Entity Extinction 3 Vic the Butcher, or the raw energy present in the opening verse of Hollywood the Cracked, while the heavy-handed influence of Year of the Black Rainbow can still be felt throughout this record, occasionally electronic, dabbling in a pervading tone of seriousness. There's a trade-off to be had, and the good outweighs the bad. The vast majority of loyal Coheed fans will discover at least a couple fleeting moments of pure progressive nirvana, making Ascension more than merely adequate. Those who find fault with the album will most likely find it in a lot of the same places. The band spends too much time going over the top without a firm musical base or coherent plot. The sound can't be too sleek and shiny, although for the most part, this issue has been remedied since Black Rainbow. And even with the astounding Domino the Destitute, they've once again failed to create a song that matches the simultaneous power, complexity, and infectiousness of Welcome Home. Although a lot of these issues are minor, they still undermine Coheed's attempts to create something grander than Fear Through the Eyes of Madness, or as lovable as In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3. This record is juxtaposed somewhere in the middle, luring our attention but not stealing it, and teasing us with offerings of the past but rarely delivering with the conviction of Domino or Vic the Butcher. In a way, for as much of an improvement as it is over their prior two releases, the Afterman Ascension shares a lot of the same qualities, and that alone prevents it from achieving magnum opus-like stature. With Coheed and Cambria's sixth studio album, they have completely revitalized their sound, thus presenting us with the album that we've all been waiting for since From Fear Through the Eyes of Madness's waning days. Only in spurts does it ascend to the heights of the band's opening three acts, but it does manage to triumphantly assert itself as a leaps and bounds improvement over Coheed's most recent material. For faithful followers and new fans alike, the Afterman Ascension is a genuinely good progressive rock album that will hopefully foreshadow even greater things to come from a talented quartet that seems to draw from an endless pool of creativity and imagination. Songs on this album include The Hollow, Key Entity, Extraction 1, Domino the Destitute, The Afterman, Mothers of Men, Good Night, Fair Lady, Key Extraction 2, Hollywood, The Cracked, number 3, Vic the Butcher, and number 4, Evagria, The Faithful, and the final track, Subtraction, along with a bonus track, The Homecoming. Josh, what do you think of part 1 of The Afterman? These are insightful points. They are beautiful. I love it.
I think
No, I liked it better when
musically,
you were muted.
I'm sure you did. I liked it better, or I liked it more musically because it feels like it's getting back to Good Apollo. It's getting back to Silent Earth. We've got our main theme in the opening track, The Hollow. Um, and as kind of I was gonna say one off, but one album that's dual parts. Um, I don't hate the story, obviously, like I said, I gravitate more towards the Claudio story, but
Hmm.
um as kind of a one-off, like this works for me. It's an interesting exploration of the key work. I'd always gotten the feeling that heaven it was something that Heaven's Fence kind of promoted as like that was like a heaven, the key work, like I know they use it for travel and stuff, but I don't think anybody knew that like all these souls are trapped in there and they're all like horribly tortured. And nobody knows until Sirius like goes in. So, but I'm also like kind of unclear right now on the time frame for it because I know his name is Sirius Armory. And so I don't know if this is before the Armory Wars or if this is something that leads to the Armory Wars.
Yeah, I read it was like it was supposed to be even before, I think, Year of the Black Rainbow, if I remember reading that correctly.
So is it before Heaven's Fence?
I believe, well, I don't know about that. I can't comment on that.
Okay. Yeah,
But
these two
if I remember
albums are the
correctly, it made
ones
it sound
that
like it was like if you're looking at it as a whole, it's the very first thing before even Year of the Black Rainbow and then going into, second stage and such. But
see, that would make it even cooler because there's so many things about the beginning of the album that also have that like this is the start kind of feeling to it.
yes, yeah.
Like the beginning of Keywork Extraction 1 is so sick.
Ah, such a good song, man.
And
I
I
like how
think
they
the
went.
review is 100% right there. Like, yeah, that song lets you know, like, hey, we're back.
Yeah. Well, and one of the big things that I enjoyed about that song is, I mean, almost like midway through, we get kind of like what we talked about with some of the Willingwell songs. It changes up, you know,
Right.
at that part where basically Domino gets in his head and this is my life,
Yeah.
you know. So, yeah. How do you
The, s-
feel about
the screaming.
yeah.
Ah!
How do you feel about in talking about that song? At the very end there where they're doing the boxing match in the background.
Oh
How do you
yeah.
feel about like people doing stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like the kind of faded away like talking stuff. I don't know. There's something about like I thought it was cool, but at the same time I'm like, no, I'm not a big fan when people do that overall.
It's
It messes with my
interesting.
brain.
And I think this is a deeper, uh, ultimately, dude, I think he is leaving behind the what's been the main part of our story, because of the reasons we talked about, that he wasn't writing it the way he is now, where he's
Right, yeah.
writing, he's putting down material to accompany this music and they go together a
Right.
lot better. And so with that in mind, it's like, yeah, I think he's going to play up a lot of these characters. I think he's going to do some kind of cartoony things like
Well,
that.
and that's why I think like in this it works.
Right.
In when other bands do stuff like that and there's no, something it's just kind of like
The only one that I can think of that I feel like works, and it's also a very like theatrical album, is in Mama from Black Parade. Because there's a few times that they do some stuff like that where
Oh,
it's
wait. You talking about when it's the woman singing? Is that what you're talking about?
that part, and then also like when he's just doing his whole like like around that part too.
Yeah. If you're not
Um,
watching on YouTube, you are missing out on
you're
some
missing out. You're missing
golden
out.
stuff, man.
Get Survived by Productions, YouTube.
Do it now. Do it.
Um,
3, 2, 1, do it.
yeah, there's a
Oh, I
lot
thought
to
he was
like.
frozen. You were just
There's a
like,
lot there's a lot to like about this album.
yeah.
And yeah, I am excited to talk about like the story part of this because it just continues to get darker and darker. Like it starts with all of this and everything
And
he
that's how
experiences in
Josh
the
likes it.
keyword. And then
Darkness.
while he's in there, well, no, I think this is after he gets out. His wife is killed in the car accident. And then he
Oh.
tries to like guide her soul through the keywork, but that doesn't go well. So yeah, I don't
Oops.
know. I love the album artwork for these. Um,
Yes. Ah.
yeah, his legs are being completely ripped
Which
apart.
is funny because it's like you look at that and then the whole deal of whatever they're like the souls or whatever. I think it's from some of the description I read, it's like when he starts hearing that sound, it's just like the la 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 la. So
Yeah.
looking at it like he was and then just hearing la 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 la.
Ah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then I don't
Uh
remember how it doesn't
how
sound
what?
like they end this one with like an
No,
old riff.
yeah, I say I think like the way that they end subtraction, it's just it feels like it's not even it should be like an ending song to an album, you know,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. Which, kind of makes sense if it's a double album, just to go ahead and go right into, however you say that, predilethal.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Finally. Took us 74 episodes, but I did it. I said a word right.
Predilethal with that album cover. It's like he's singing so high.
Yeah. Oh.
Just ethereal
Uh,
agony.
those two things do not go together. Well, let's talk about that next album, Josh. Only 4 months past the ban. Wait, what? I have no clue the words that I put here together. Only four
Only
months last
4 months. The
no.
band.
Well, there you go. There you go. Only fourth month. Okay, no, hold on, wait a minute. I'm gonna read it the way I wrote it. Okay.
Welcome back to the History of the Chorus podcast.
Oh, man. Okay, here we go. This must have been like late at night or something. Only fourth month last the band would release their next
Oh my
album.
god.
You know
Only
what that
4
sounds
months would
like?
pass until the band would release the next part of their album, The
What
Afterman
an
Dissension.
idiot. Oh, it's like reading Charlie's like freaking diary or something.
Denim Chicken?
Denim chicken? Oh, verm hats. Let me read that again. Only fourth months last the band would release their next album, the second of the double album, 2013's The Afterman Descension, from Hundred Handed and Everything Evil Records, produced once again by Michael Birnbaum and Chris Bittner, peaking at number 9 on the Billboard 200. Try to give him an extra spot. I'm sorry, guys. Robert Gardland of SputnikMusic.com wrote in his brief review of the album, quote, "The Afterman Dissension has its share of classic singles, sure enough to be mentioned on the listeners' try this track before you write them off. But even with the digital effects, wows, and well-placed hooks, tracks like Key Entity Extraction 5, Century the Defiance, and The Hard Sail display some of the strongest songwriting Coheed and Cambria has had since the early days of the Good Apollo series. In fact, Century the Defiance may just be one of the catchiest tracks to be ever produced. Nice. To be ever produced. That's not how that goes. To be produced by the group just by using a simple riff presence and excellently timed hooks. Regardless, the release is critically consistent, building off the first so-called chapter in the Afterman series and developing into a quality display of songwriting and a great storyline. Musically, most of the album is top-notch, apart from the occasional filler sections that do no more than push the record along its journey, maintaining the story, ensuring that everything is well presented and shown with a flair for virtuosity. However, there is a feeling that if this wasn't indeed a concept album, the storyline would be nonplus and all listeners would be left with the occasional single, an extremely catchy hook from time to time, and a more than needed filler section. Thankfully, this is not the case, and the storyline acts as the record's backbone, highlighting just how well this concept can be applied musically to the comic book saga. The Afterman Dissension shows an excellent execution in design, building off the foundations of the first chapter in the Afterman series. Coheed and Cambria round off the story, but not without leaving the door wide open for another chapter. Songs on this album include... That was weird. Predalethal, Key Entity Extraction 5, Century the Defiant, The Hard Sail, Number City, Gravity's Union, Away We Go, Iron Fist, Dark Side of Me, and the finale 2's my favorite one, along with some bonus tracks. Or Carol Ann and Random Reality Shift. Alrighty, Josh. Descension time. Bring it down. How'd it do?
It's not as strong as Ascension, but I do still really like it. There's just a couple of tracks on here that I'm just kind of meh on.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say in the last album too, I really like all the little bits from Mother that you get over the course of both these albums because I don't know, it's just more immersive to be hearing
entity.
what Sirius like would be hearing, you know?
Yes.
It just puts you in there. Plus a couple of times where you're actually hearing some of these different entities, you know, like those things paired together, I think keep you a lot more immersed in the story. Yeah.
Get out of my head. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
How do you feel about this
this
one?
Well, this one just doesn't hit as hard for me as Ascension. I'm with you. There's some that are some hit and misses here and there, but um, yeah.
Where? Ah, man. Yeah, I gotta look more into these two because he's got a line also in Away We Go
Mhm.
where because I'm pretty sure the track before this is the one where they're at the hospital. And then after this, he's like saying that he's gonna take her soul through the keywork. And but there's that line, my little Jersey girl. And it made me wonder, I mean, Sirius, yeah, he can't be oh he can't be Josephine's boyfriend. That was like the only maybe little connection that I could think of there. But
Yeah,
dude, if this is supposed to be before all of that, there's a New Jersey? There's a Jersey City?
maybe. Maybe it was better than what it was in Second Stage Turbine.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I gotta look into this one more, but it does leave me with a lot of questions because again, we've got a bunch of references to like
Right. You're like,
stuff that's
ah,
supposed to be like after this.
I need
So,
more yarn.
yeah. The board's not big enough.
The board's not big enough. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
What
this is
did you
definitely
take
one to
away what did you take away story-wise from this one?
um this one, I don't know. I like I said, I'm kind of like with you too, is like I'm very interested in the story and I need to read more into it. Just before we got on here, I started reading just the beginnings of Ascension. And so that's how I knew a little bit of like the domino stuff and such. But I would like to know more on this. So I'm definitely gonna check it out here in the future. And then obviously on part four.
The Fence, Curtis, the home for all of your Coheed lore knowledge.
Gotcha. That's the website. The fence.
No, it's the
Oh.
subreddit, The Fence.
Oh, it's a Reddit. Okay,
Oh
cool.
yes.
Cool, 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 cool. Alrighty. Josh, I don't know. Did you notice something when I mentioned who the record label was that it put out these last two albums?
He says my little Jersey girl two more times in that song. No, I didn't recognize what label they were on. What label are they
Okay,
on?
so it was Hundred Handed Everything Hundred Handed Everything Evil Records. Now, never heard of it before.
Is that their own label?
Oh, apparently they created their own little label to release these two albums. Now, I couldn't find any information on this so-called label. But apparently all is known is that they created it just to put out these two albums and then it disappeared because, with the next album, what is it, Color Before the Sun? They're on a totally different record label. It's like 300 records or something like that, which is kind of a known one. And then they signed with another one to do the Vaxxas stuff. So it was kind of a strange move. I don't know. I wondered in my mind if it was like they got to that point where like, yeah, we should do our own like record label and like marketing and everything. And then like they did, and maybe it was just like too much for them, which especially for like I was thinking about earlier when you were talking about him writing music with source material and everything, is like, dude, his days have to be just overwhelming, just like full of like, I gotta get this done, I gotta get this done, and then have a family. So I'm sure like it was probably a fun idea at first, but I'm betting that this idea of like having their own label and like working on marketing for themselves is probably just too much for them to deal with.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's that. Interestingly, Sanchez at one point, Josh, was working with Entourage producers Steven Levinson and Mark Wahlberg to adapt the story of The Afterman into a live action movie. But unfortunately, Josh, the hype has subsided and all parties have gone their own way. But who knows, Josh? Who knows? There's still a future. There's still a tomorrow. You never know. Maybe we'll get that live action Afterman movie. A year after their latest release, it would be announced by the band that for the 11th anniversary of their sophomore album, In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3, the band would remaster and re-release their hit album to the public. They would then follow this up by announcing the Thank You Scientist Tour, playing In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3 in its entirety later the next year, doing the same at Heavy Fest in England. The current lineup, Josh, and this will take us up to this point too, is Claudio Sanchez on vocals and guitar, Travis Stever on guitar, Zach Cooper on bass, and Josh Eppard on drums. Two things, Josh. One, how bad would you want the Emery Wars to be adapted into a live action movie?
That'd be pretty sick.
Okay. And then second question, final thoughts on this episode, Josh, with these 4 albums.
Well, now we're truly gonna start getting into uncharted territory for me.
This is true.
I did listen to a little bit of Unheavenly Creatures. I liked it okay. I've listened to like a couple tracks off Vaxis, but
See, I've heard most of Vax's, but that's the only one of the 3 that we're going to talk about next that I've heard.
yeah, Color
So-
Before the Sun, as quick as I heard that was not a part of any of this, I quickly skipped over that. So,
So you haven't even heard that one?
no.
What? I thought you had. Okay.
No.
Okay. This will be interesting then. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's a tough thing for me, dude. I would say this band is tied up almost 50-50 with me for like the story and the band, and without one, I almost don't want the other.
But don't you feel like sometimes, and maybe, well, okay, let me back up. Because this would go into some of the things that, like, I'm sure you and I have talked about, and me and Eric have talked about too, of having that side project. And it doesn't even have to be Prize Fighter Inferno. I almost did it, but I didn't do it. Maybe even doing like starting another side project to do Color Before the Sun, to decompress from so much, Emery Wars and Afterman stuff,
Right. And then all
But-
your side projects need to also revolve around that too, though.
Can't the man just like release some of it on just like something else?
Like Prize Fighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did Jesse go? Where did Jesse go, Curtis?
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out on the next episode. Probably not. We're not gonna find out. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @IsSurvivedByPro for news and the latest episode postings, not just on this show, but our other shows as well. We have the History of the Cores After Hours podcast, where I sit down with my good friend and avid listener of this very podcast, Eric, and we discuss some of the bands me and Josh have already talked about. We had a brand new episode of that come out this past week about the band known as Prayer for Cleansing. And guess what? We'll have another brand new episode come out this week about the band known as Chasing Victory. And then you know what's going to happen after that, Josh? We're going to talk about Coheed and Cambria. Booyah in your face. Yeah.
And the special All Stars episode?
You trying to work your way into After Hours?
The mashup. I don't remember if we said we were going to have him on here.
We're talking about it. Yeah, we're talking about it. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. TBA. We also have the Red Right Hand podcast, which has covered all 6 seasons. There will be a movie. By God, there will be a movie.
If they don't make one, we'll make one.
Oh, I was about to say, do I need to rehash the threats that we made during summertime, or do you need to? Say the line of Peaky Blinders. And we also have get your tissue box out, Josh. I know you're going to be sad about this one. The Throne of the Dragon podcast, which has covered season 1 and season 2, and eventually season 3 of HBO's House of the Dragon. But hey, there's going to be a brand new season 1 of another HBO show of a Westerosi world, a Knights of the Seven Kingdoms this coming summer, and we're getting prepared. We're going to get you prepared. Yeah, we're going to read some of the books, but before that, we're going to do some character
Just
profiling.
a couple of weeks. Yeah, just
a couple of weeks, man. Who are we going to do? Oh my God, who are we going to talk about?
First one, Curtis, is going to be on Oris Baratheon, Aegon the Conqueror's bastard half-brother.
All right. The loser.
What? No. We love Oris Baratheon.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, so be on the lookout for those episodes. Also, while you're on Twitter, make sure to follow my co-host, Joshua, at Joshua Lynn Gary. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on whatever podcast service you're using. And if you want to listen to us, see our smiling faces, head on over to our YouTube page or our crazy eyes, whatever. Just search Is Survived Productions, and that'll have every episode from all of our shows. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up the video. Alrighty. Until next time, part 3, where we finish up the discography of Coheed and Cambria. We'll see you.
Bye-bye, world.
Bye, my world.